I do want to welcome to the show David Smith. I actually heard him last week. He was a call-in guest for Stephanie Tressel. She was guest starring on another station, and I heard him running down this particular subject, and I immediately texted Stephanie and said, I've got to get this man's contact information. She sent it to me. I texted him. He responded right away, and he's been so gracious to join us today. Thank you for joining the show today, Mr. Smith.
Hello, David. Good to be with you and the WVON audience.
No problem. Now, please tell everyone the organization that you
Sure.
represent.
It's called Illinois Family Institute. You can find us at illinoisfamily.org. And we've been around since 1992. We try to bring a biblical perspective to public policy. So, yes, we're Christian. And we try to do pro-life, pro-family work down in Springfield and in the churches throughout the state of Illinois.
Perfect. I wanted to make sure everyone understands your worldview and your point of view before we get into this conversation. You mentioned a number when I heard you on the radio with Stephanie Tressel, and I could not believe that number. You said in Springfield, there are presently how many bills under consideration?
Sure. There were 6,700, more than 6,700 bills introduced over the last 4 to 5 months in Springfield. Now, not all of them are moving at the moment, but they're all still kind of on, could be resurrected within the next year to 2 years, because one General Assembly session is a 2-year period in Springfield.
That is, I don't know. I'm not 100% certain. Well, I do know. The Congress in Washington, D.C. doesn't have 6,700 bills, and they are in charge of the entire country.
Well, you're going to love this. So next January, when they convene for the next spring session in 2026, they'll introduce another 5,000 to 6,000 bills. And so generally over the last, 10 years that I've been doing this for 20 years, one session, we could have over 10,000 bills being considered in Springfield.
And I have to be just being 100% transparent with you, David. I have mentioned some of the more egregious bills I've seen come out of Springfield.
Yes.
That we are already, as Illinoisans, taxed the most in the United States, and they just cannot seem to help themselves. And it's germane to this conversation to mention that the Springfield has a supermajority Democratic. It's controlled by a supermajority of Democrats. So
That's
this
right.
is a criticism of Democrats in Illinois specifically. They have never found a tax they don't like.
No, they're finding new ones as we go too. It's tax and spend. I know that, DC is under criticism for trying to cut some of the waste and bloat and the corruption. And that's what we need to do here in Springfield, is start cutting some of this stuff down, because there is a lot of waste. There's a lot of inefficiency that could save taxpayers from being taxed again and again and again.
It boggles my mind that the Democrats in Springfield, when they see a fiscal need or something that they have, they never think to themselves, hey, let's take some money from this priority over here and reallocate it over here. Their only solution is, we need more money.
That's right.
And there are only two ways that governments, I've said this on the show before, there are only two ways that governments can raise revenue. They can sell bonds or they can raise taxes. And we're coming up on our first break. So I want you to mention some of the crazier bills that you've seen. I do want to mention this one as we go to break. I know that you've seen this one. They want to introduce, because gas consumption is down, the consumption of gasoline is down, because cars are more efficient and more people have EVs. So there's less tax revenue being collected through the sale of gasoline. That funds, the repair supposedly of roads and bridges. So they have introduced a mileage tax.
That's right.
I presume the way that works, David, is that you drive your car to what like when the state used to have the EPA stations where you get your emissions test. You drive someplace like that in January, they check your mileage. You go back in December, they check it again, and then they subtract the two numbers, and then you have to pay so much cents per mile based on how you drove that year.
That's correct. Or they're going to start fitting cars with some kind of a electronic monitoring thing that automatically tells how you go through the tollway and it automatically dings your account for a toll. That's quite possible too.
David, we're going to take our first break. Everybody, don't go anywhere, because I need you to understand how your tax dollars are being spent, dare I say, wasted in Springfield. We're going to take our first break and we'll be right back. We are back, everybody, listening to the David Seaton Show. I just have to give a shout out to Logan when she does the weather, and she does that. She says V103 1390. She does that little Eartha Kitt roll in her throat. Thanks everybody for joining us. Let's keep the conversation going. David, before I mentioned that mileage bill, which I can't even tell you how incensed I am that you're going to, because here's what people don't know, that's something that gets charged to commercial truck drivers, because they pay that fee based on their mileage, because they're using publicly funded roads for a commercial purpose. I understand that, but to charge citizens a mileage tax because you're not getting enough taxes from gasoline taxes, which I believe Illinois has the second or the third highest gasoline tax in the United States, to me is preposterous. But
they're going to get you coming and going, David.
Literally. Share with our listeners some of the crazier bills that you've seen.
So our number one concern is a bill that would legalize physician-assisted suicide. In other words, Dr. Kevorkian, for
euthanasia.
Those who grew up in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, euthanasia.
Euthanasia. In other words, assisted suicide in the state of Illinois. It's very close in both chambers, in the Senate and the House. We've got like 6 days left of the General Assembly session. They're supposed to be done by May 31st. I would just encourage your listeners to please call their state lawmakers, both state senator and state representative, and tell them that the state of Illinois should never endorse suicide for any reason.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Say you are someone with stage 4 cancer. It is metastasized. You are living in constant pain, excruciating pain. Should an individual like that, should that individual have the right to end their life?
No, I'll tell you why. Number one, in the various places where assisted suicide is already legal, pain is not even in the top 5 reasons for, wanting to have an early end of life. Pain can be managed. We have so many different ways of managing pain. But number 2 is, how often are doctors wrong on diagnosis and prognosis and predicting how long somebody can live? They're often wrong, and there are always making progress. Medical science and regular science is making progress on how to cure certain things or how to make things better. And number 3, I'll just say this for the audience that may be faith-based that is listening, God is working even through the suffering, and God could use the suffering in your life and in the life of your family to do something incredible. And so we don't want to shortchange that, do we?
That said, that's your personal ideological belief.
Yep.
I can say that if someone wants to commit suicide, they can do it without the assistance of a physician.
That's true. That's so true.
Okay. So, but there was another one that you mentioned last week when I heard you. Well, name the second one that's the most offensive.
So the homeschool regulation bill. Some state lawmakers think that we need to register our kids. I'm a homeschooling father. With the local school, because just like our dogs and cats need to be registered with the county. It's absolutely ridiculous. Homeschooling has really exploded, especially since the lockdowns, and families throughout the city of Chicago and the suburbs and downstate, they've all experienced this joy of being able to home educate their children, and they're doing phenomenal. The vast majority, I'm talking 99% of the families, are doing wonderful, better than the failing government schools. We don't need the government to step in and try to help. Are there some cases of abuse? Sure. Do they claim to homeschool? Sure. But that's the jurisdiction of the DCFS, not of our state lawmakers and not our local schools or regional office of education.
Is your objection to the bill a freedom argument that the government doesn't have the right to come into someone's home, or is it more of a, are you arguing, is that a regulatory objection, or what?
Yes, all of the above, but also this, David, there's no way that the government is going to stop at just simply registering. They're going to want to take those regulations further, whether that's mandating curriculum or inspections or report cards or testing or any of those things. And really, we want nothing to do with that.
I criticize CPS and public school generally regarding their percentage of success.
Yes.
which is abysmal, in my opinion.
It's horrible. They're failing. They need to get their house in order first.
You're absolutely right. Before we go to our next break, did I hear you last week mention something about prostitution?
Yes. So 2 other bills. One that would legalize prostitution in the state of Illinois, and another bill that would legalize.
Stop right there. The democratically controlled assembly and state in Springfield has a bill that they are trying to legalize prostitution in the state of Illinois.
That is correct. I mean, why else do you think that all these people were human trafficked into our country? They listen. Just think about this in your local community, on main streets, and the suburbs. You're going to have not only the saloon, you're going to have the mini casino, at the wine shop. You're going to have the weed shop, because legal marijuana is legal, and then you're going to have a brothel. How family friendly can we make our neighborhoods?
Come on, David. We can follow the famous example of Nevada. We've all heard about the Bunny Ranch and how much tax revenue they're bringing into the great state of Nevada.
Yeah, and they got a reputation for being family friendly, don't they?
It is amazing to me how in such a short period of time, and I'm a conservative independent, and I'm libertarian when it comes to social issues. I don't like to intrude in the life or in the decisions that people make in their private lives. That said, it's amazing to me to see the 180 that has happened in just a generation.
And think about this. The Cook County Department of Health on its website has a huge warning about sexually transmitted diseases. All right. And how to avoid them. One of the ways to avoid them is abstinence. In other words, don't engage in sex. Yeah. We're going to legalize sex workers. I mean, how stupid. This is not good for public health. This is going to end in disaster and spread all kinds of diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea, HIV, AIDS. It's foolish.
David, we're going to take another break, and we're going to check in with Logan, everybody. Put in the chat if you want to see prostitution made legal in the state of Illinois. Give us a call at 773-591-1690. We'll be right back after this break. And Riri, we're going to take your call. You're listening to The David Seaton Show. We are back, everybody. You're listening to The David Seaton Show. Joining us on the live line is Mr. David Smith, and we are going over some of the craziest bills that are being passed in the super controlled, the democratically super controlled assembly and state senators in Springfield. It's important for us to have this information so we know how to vote. And you should not be voting reflexively for one party or the other. You should be looking at the policy, and the policy that's coming out of Springfield is opprobrious. Let me grab this one call quick, David. Riri, thanks for calling the show.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just think that the money that comes out of my paycheck to go to D.C., where this guy is saying eliminate everything. I'd rather switch and let the portion going to Springfield cover the DC portion and let the DC portion come to the state. At least the state is saying, I got 1,000 things this money should cover, as opposed to DC saying, I don't want to cover nothing. What are you going to just take the money and do what with it?
Okay, well,
So that's what I think. I'll take your answer off the air.
Yeah, thank you for the call. I mean, again, we can make an argument about the priorities out of DC and whether or not we individually agree with them. But I don't want this to be the juxtaposition. When we talk about national politics often, and we don't talk enough about local politics. What's happening in Springfield is going to impact people in Illinois far more and far faster than a lot of these things we talk about in DC. Give me you mentioned prostitution, and you were about to mention another one, David. Mention that other one for me.
Sure. Now the prostitution bill is kind of dead for the spot, this session right now, but so is the next one. But they still introduced it, a bill to legalize psychedelic drugs in Illinois.
Are you talking about mushrooms?
Magic mushrooms and such. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's very concerning as well. I don't know if you know this, but the daily use of marijuana now exceeds the daily use of alcohol in our nation.
It's not surprising, and I can attest to that anecdotally from what I see in my peer group.
Or smell as you drive down the road, right? So so it's all around us now, and if you've had your car insurance rates go up, guess why? We've got more disabled drivers on the road or inebriated drivers on the road than ever before, and it's not good for society.
It really isn't.
David, there's another bill that just passed this week in Springfield. It's on its way to the governor's desk, and that will mandate mental health screening for students 3rd grade to 12th grade in our schools. Mental health screening. And my big question is, whose definitions of mental health and mental illness are we going by?
That's interesting. It is subjective. Let me read this one post from Leon Dixon. And thanks for the post, Leon. Leon just posted, who are we going to hear next week? Probably Paul Vallis. Vote the way you want to vote. Don't dictate to people. Thank you for your post, Leon. I think you are confused. I said I'm not trying to dictate anything to people. I'm trying to make sure people are informed about what's going on in Springfield so that they don't reflexively vote for one party or the other. I'm saying Don't vote party, vote policy. And so I don't understand how you misconstrued me dictating something. Let me grab Tracy. Tracy, thanks for the call.
And thank you, David. Thank you so much for having an intelligent conversation. And I just want to make a statement. I put a post up the other day. Someone did. I shared it about $10 million being allocated. And this is where we are. It's a lot of things being pushed because we don't know. So shows like this is vital because it's time to become intelligent. And when you do vote, whether you do Republican or Democrat, you're voting for what they agree with, for their policies. So I just say this to my people that are listening. Share David Seaton's show. Understand what David Seaton is doing is teaching. And when you was on Matt's show and you discussed about slavery, many of us don't understand. We sold ourselves out, and we continue to do it today. There's not another race that can take over you unless someone in your own do it. I've never been hurt by somebody that doesn't know me, but I've been betrayed by many that do know me. Please, my people, if you're ever going to get reparations, you better go within yourself and understand that it's waiting on you to know the truth. Until you know the truth, we're stuck. Thank you, Mr. Seaton. I love you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tracy. You know what, Dave, I don't know if you know about this, but actually one of our listeners, her name is Karen, she sent me this screenshot that there's a bill right now in Springfield that is appropriating $10 million from the General Revenue Fund to the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity for the purpose of awarding a grant to Omega Psi Phi fraternity for costs associated with the fraternity's 2028 Grand Conclave. We are giving that Springfield is giving $10 million to a private Black fraternity to do, and it's a grant, so they can do some construction on one of their buildings.
Yeah. This is not the priority of government. It shouldn't even be there. They need to do less, especially right now when they're facing a serious budget or income fall in income, and they want to spend $55 billion in the state of Illinois. You know, that $10 million could be allocated in a better place to help really needy families in Illinois.
I looked at that number the other day. I thought it was 53, but 55 billion, $53 billion. It's a small difference. When I looked at that, because there are approximately 12 million and some change people in the state of Illinois, it comes down to about $4,250 per person in the state of Illinois.
That's right.
To generate that 53 or $55 billion budget. Is there any other crazy bill that you can think of other than the ones that you've mentioned?
Well, yeah, there are more, but those are the top ones that I wanted to talk about today, including, by the way, on July 1st, our gasoline tax is going to go up again.
Yes.
And you mentioned early on that we're the second highest tax in the nation. And soon, because it's an annual tax being added onto the gas, every July 1st, it's going to go up. We will be the number one eventually. But, you know, there's two taxes on gasoline. There's not only a motor fuels tax, but there's a sales tax on top of it.
Exactly.
And our government officials are looking at ways to tax other services like lawn care service, barber shops. I mean, come on, people, this is crazy.
And you know, here's the proof that Illinois' taxes, their gasoline tax, is too high. If you go to any part of Illinois where you're on the border of another state, you go to the Illinois when you're on the border in the north to Wisconsin, to the west, Iowa, to the south, Missouri, and to the west, Indiana. To the east, Indiana. All people who live on the borders, of another state, they drive across the border to get to buy their gasoline because the price is that much cheaper.
Well, and this also, David, if you just go down 57 to Kankakee, it's even cheaper there.
and again, it's the condition of the roads in the state of Illinois. You can't even justify these taxes that are being assessed when they say that this is going toward the upkeep of the roads, because every time you look up, they're selling one of the roads that were publicly funded by taxpayer money to private tollways. So then we were charged taxes to build the roads, and now we've got to pay daily tolls when we go on the roads when they make them private. It's just maddening.
That's right, and the tolls have gone up too. If you've noticed that, it's back in the day when I was paying tolls, it was 40 cents a toll, and now it's $1.50 or more a toll.
All right, we're going to take another break. Israel, I see you holding. We're going to come back with your calls, everybody. If this doesn't make you angry, you should have an opinion about how your government spends your money. This is why we're having this conversation. We're going to take another break, everybody. We'll be right back. We're back, everybody. You're listening to the David Seaton Show. We've got David Smith joining us on the live line. We are talking about the ridiculous taxes that continue to come out of the democratically controlled Springfield State Senate and Assembly. Let me grab David. Okay, you're there. Let me grab Israel. Israel, thanks for the call. Israel, turn your radio down.
Hi, I'm sorry, my brother
problem.
King David. Two. I'm gonna give y'all two King Davids in this studio, man. It's sad, man, about them bullet laws and pilots. You must not be a Divine Nine or a Boule, David.
I am not.
Okay, yeah, it's showing, cause that stuff they putting down there in Springfield, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I heard Tracy and all them. Man, ain't nowhere in the world they keep hollering about Washington, D.C. ain't said nothing about Springfield.
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely. Israel, we talk about Trump all day.
Ain't no weed day. Ain't no weed day.
I'm saying when I say we, I'm talking about we collectively talk about Trump
know.
often, but we very seldom have conversations about what's going on in Springfield, and that's what's going to impact you the most.
That's demonic, man. We're dealing with the demonic people, man. I'm gonna leave that right there. Only not say they, because they know I'm a Trump supporter. I don't give a heck, man. Let me shut up. Hey, man, King David, keep up the good work.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the call. We're getting to the end of the hour, and go ahead. We've got one more. Let me pick up Janice.
And so every night,
Janice?
every
Janice?
day, every Friday.
Janice?
Bye-bye.
Hello. All right. Whoever that was, you weren't. We tried to pick you up, and you were talking in the background. It looks like. Tony Briscoe just posted, Israel does because he's a Trump lover. Sally Brown posted, I disagree with you on most topics, but I agree with you on the reparations discussion. Okay, we'll table that until we get to the 4 o'clock hour and touch on that. What do people need to understand, David, when it's time, when the next time we have to vote for our state senators and our state representatives, what do people need to understand about the rubric they should use for whom they vote so that they can get the best possible outcome for the laws that are going to impact their daily lives?
Well, I would point to scripture that says that we should choose men and women who are going to be above reproach, honest, or trustworthy, and are not looking to enrich themselves. There needs to be wholesale change down in Springfield. Some of those people have been down there for 20 plus years. And I don't think that, I'm not necessarily a fan of term limits. However, I think the voters should limit the terms, and new people should be coming in with fresh ideas, experiences from the real world, not willing to send almost $3 million to, for example, the National Museum of Puerto Rican Art. Are you serious? How about $14 million to Indo-American Center? I mean, I can go down a list of different things for you. How about $1 million for the Polish American Association? Really? I mean, these things are ridiculous. We're taking money out of the pockets of hardworking Illinoisans to fund pet projects that, the people should be able to decide if they want to donate to those causes, not our politicians mandating that we are taxed and then they make the decisions for us.
And to your point, to your larger point, when Springfield comes up with these line items and they add everything up and they say, oh, our budget is $55 billion. We don't have enough money.
Yep.
It never comes up to say, you know what, we thought we were going to be able to fund this line item, but we can't afford it. We can't afford it. So we're going to have to take Polish American, Indo-American, Puerto Rican, whatever museum. Sorry, you don't get your grant this year because in order for us to give you your grant, we've got to give everybody else a grant. And that means we've got to raise taxes. Illinoisans are not going to stand for that. And so, sorry, we can't fund your pet project. You're free to go set up a GoFundMe. You're free to go solicit donations. But no, Springfield is not representing the interests of everyday Illinoisans.
The taxpayers, they need to represent us, the taxpayers, the people who vote to put them in there, not of all these special interests. I couldn't agree with you more. David, I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, I heard you on with Stephanie Tressel, and I had to have you come on because I wanted people to hear exactly. I wanted them to hear it from someone else's mouth about some of these ridiculous laws. I really appreciate. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
No, thank you. I will be in touch, David. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.